Hello all, I'm Sai and in today's video, I'm bringing to you my spoiler-free review and spoiler-filled discussion of A Court of Mist and Fury by J Maas, which is the second book inside the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. I have my review and discussion of the first book, A Court of Thorns and Roses, already out in the channel. I'll link it in the cards as well as in the description. So if you want a spoiler-free review of the book or if you want to dive into a spoilery discussion of it, you can check out that video. I'm going to do this video also in the same style as the previous one, in which I'll talk about and give a review of this book in a spoiler-free way for the first 5 minutes, and then I'll be diving deep into spoilers. Now this book is much huger compared to the first book. It's nearly 2 times as long as the first book, but trust me, it's totally worth it. So without any further ado, let's get into the various sections of the review right away. Starting with the spoiler-free review, let's first talk about the plot of this book. Now, A Court of Mist and Fury starts just a few days after the end of A Court of Thorns and Roses, and Feyre as well as Tamlin are in the spring court right now, and Feyre is experiencing a lot of PTSD because of all the events that happened towards the end of A Court of Thorns and Roses. Now, the things that she is feeling are not at all mild in their way. They are very erratic, at the same time super intense as experiences for her. She is struggling internally and is not able to express it properly to anyone and articulate her emotions properly. So she's internally struggling a lot. At the same time, all these things that she is going through is not at all being understood by anyone around her. Both Tamlin as well as Lucien, despite being loving and caring towards her, are not able to understand all the things that Feyre went through during the end of the first book, and they are totally unaware of it in a very blatant way. The story also does not just take place inside the spring court itself as we saw in the first book. It happens across different courts, and we see Feyre having interactions with a lot of different characters throughout the second book. And the romance in this one is also pretty much high in its tone, and it is also quite steamy in this book. I've seen that many people compare this book to be just smut in its whole, but trust me, it's not like that. There are just like 2 or 3 chapters of the book which are extremely sexy, and compared to like 70 chapters of the whole book, 3 to 4 chapters is not that huge a number if you ask me, and the rest of this book is just epic fantasy. There is some romance here that does not have anything to do with sex also, which is also really well done by the author. But more than the plot, I should say that the characters of this book in specific just elevated the story to a next level. Having said that, I want to talk about the characters right now. And we see a lot of different characters who are new to the story that are introduced to us in the second book only. And of them, I should say that Rhysand, who we saw in the first book, plays a huge role in book 2. And the interactions that he has with Feyre and how she develops a relationship with him and his friends is really beautiful. Now, except Rhysand, we also have his found family kind of people, namely Amren, Mort, Cassian and Raziel. Apart from these people, we also have this high priestess named Ianthe, who is helping Tamlin to groom Feyre to make her the wife of Tamlin after he gets coronated there and after they both end up getting married. There are also a lot of other things that are being done politically by all these characters in different levels at different subplots of the book across the entire book, and trust me, each and every character that the author has included here seems very relevant, and especially if you ask me, the found family that Rhysand has and the relationship that Feyre develops with each and every one of them is really beautiful to read. And the character development of Feyre also in this book is really huge. Okay, we see her growing from the timid human she was in the first book to the person who she is right now in book 2, and the way in which the character has shown her development is really nice. There are some instances in which it feels like she just shifts from one person into another completely because of the things that are going on around her, but personally for me they didn't feel like flaws, because when extremely difficult things happen in life, there are some things that just shift in us and they change us drastically, and I was able to see the same kind of shifts that were happening in Feyre too, so it was not that much of an issue for me in this book. Moving on to the writing and world building inside this book. Just as the first book, I can say that the writing in this one is very dense, okay? There is a lot of things that are going on, but the author makes sure that each and every line that she writes is very accessible to people. You need not be like super smart and sophisticated to read and enjoy the story. It is not that easy a story though. It is quite complicated because of all the subplots that are going on. And you can also see the size of the book, right? It is nearly 700 pages long and there's a ton of stuff that is going on. So it's not an easy story to read, but the author makes it easier for us through her writing, which is very lush and beautiful, at the same time super easy to read. The writing is in such a way that I wanted to keep on flipping the pages because I like the beauty of the writing. At the same time, I did not feel like I had to sit down and read anything more than once to get the gist of what she is trying to say. Everything was very picturesque, and I was able to see each and everything that she was writing very clearly as pictures just running in front of me in my head. And that leads into the world building part too. The world here, especially in this book, just expands and explodes if you ask me, okay? When we see the Night Court and all the other different courts inside the series, especially in this book, they just feel a lot huger, okay? There is also the city called Velaris that is shown to us inside the Night Court, inside this book. And trust me, of all the things that I've read by J Maas so far, that setup of Velaris and all the things that are happening there are the best ones. We also get to see a different kind of fairies called the Illyrians inside this book, which is also a huge part of the world building if you ask me. In terms of politics as well as the Fae culture as a whole, I can say that the author has added on a lot of different layers, which just makes the world a lot more fleshed out and lush for us. While doing all these things, it also felt like sometimes the information that she was giving was totally unnecessary also, but I didn't mind getting it because I just had fun with this world. Even when it comes to writing those steamy scenes that I talked about, I think it was a bit excessive for me because I don't want that much detail talking about two people being intimate with each other. I know that this series, especially this book in specific, is super popular for those chapters alone, but personally for me, I should say that the rest of the book, which just explores this world and shows the characters' development to us, the interactions between the characters to us, and just a huge plethora of characters itself to explore, is the thing which I enjoyed the most. And finally, talking about the pacing of the book, it is super action-packed, okay? There is something going on like a battle, a fight scene, a war or something from the starting of the book until the end. There is something happening which will make you want to flip the pages and know what's going to happen next. At the same time, while doing that much action, the author doesn't just rush through the story. She takes her time, makes you see each and everything that is happening and doesn't overdo most of the things that she's talking about. So because of all these reasons, I think the pacing of this book is very, very consistent. I did not feel like the starting of the book was a bit slow, and once we got a groove of the characters as well as the things that are going on, it started building the pace. It did not feel like that to me. It was very consistent from the start towards the end because A Court of Thorns and Roses was very, very slow paced for me, at least for the first half of the book, and only after certain things happen because of which people are transported to different places, the pace picks up in book 1. But here it is not at all like that. It is very, very consistent from the first page to the last, and the author knows where she has to expand and give a little bit more time for certain scenes in order to let those emotions settle into us. So in that way, the pacing of this book was great, and for me, basically, this was just a wholesome, enjoyable read, and I easily rated it 5 stars. So now I'm going to dive into spoilers. So if you either read the book and want to discuss spoilers with me, or if you're not at all going to read the book and just want to know more about it, please do stay on and watch the spoilery section and feel free to discuss the book with me in the comments because I'd like to. So let's dive into the spoilers right now. First, I want to talk about Feyre's PTSD and how it was beautifully depicted by the author in this book, okay? And she just shows us how messed up it is for her in her head because no one was ready to sit down and talk with her about it and listen to all of the things that she went through under the mountain with Amarantha and each and everyone else inside the Court of Nightmares. It was very, very horrible, okay? Each and every time she had a nightmare and woke up and she just had this vision of she being killed by Amarantha and going through that torture once she went through physically inside her head again and again over the nights was very, very horrible. And the fact that she was waking up in the middle of the night and just throwing up each and every time, that must have been not just mentally tiring but also physically exhausting for her. She basically just died, okay? She died with each and every bone in her body broken, her neck snapped, and just with the small tether to her body and this world, she just was brought back to life because of the power of all the other High Lords as she's existing right now. Even reading that scene and seeing all that happening to her is quite traumatizing if you ask me. Just imagine the amount of trauma that Feyre must have gone through physically as well as mentally, and that coming back to her over and over again and just haunting her through her nights is not just horrible but also super realistic. I'm sure that all of us have had experiences like that in our life. Even though it's not this level of bad, we might have had something bad happen to us and it probably gave us nightmares and we just woke up screaming in the middle of the night. I know that I've had certain instances like that in my life, and seeing this character going through such a thing dialed up to such a huge magnitude, and this one was very, very realistic, and how that is going to affect her for the rest of the book here was also very, very realistic if you ask me. I can see that it's pure fantasy, okay? It's not meant to be realistic, it's meant to be escapist, but the amount of truth that it had depicting the PTSD that she had was really, really awesome. At the same time, the amount of denial that Tamlin was showing towards her, okay? He was totally unaware that she's going through all this shit all on her own, and he's basically trying to domesticate the women who ended up saving his world and his own ass with the help of this High Priestess Ayanti. If you ask me, Ayanti is the worst of all the characters inside this book. And if you ask me if Amarantha is surviving and who of these two has to die first, Amarantha or Ayanti, I'd say kill Ayanti first and all the others can take care of Amarantha later on, because Ayanti is like just a huge load of shit. And as the story progresses on, the more and more we get to know about her, it just disgusted the hell out of me, because she's basically just a very bad person. And she kind of domesticating Feyre to become the High Lord's wife was just, very horrible, okay? It's basically just patriarchy shown to us through this lens or in this way inside this world for us. And how Feyre is like, she's not taking it, okay? She is not taking it mentally at least. And she's trying to resist it in every way, at least inside her head, which leads up to other things happening inside the book. So once she puts up that resistance, and during the wedding that's going to happen between her and Tamlin, she is sure that what she is doing is not right. It's not going to be the right decision for her for the rest of her life. And during that instant, out of nowhere, it rumbles and Rhysand comes in. I've said in my review of the first book itself that Rhysand was nice, but he's also not that great a character for me personally. And in this book, I should say that very slowly grew onto me, because his backstory is something which is very painful, at the same time super emotional. And the kind of person he has built himself up to be after going through all that was just very, very amazing to see. So Rhysand just comes in, he decides to make use of the deal that he made with Feyre during the time under the mountain, and he just takes her away from the Spring Court to the Night Court for 1 week. And the things that Feyre experiences that, okay, she has been thinking that the Night Court is such a horrible place which tortures people throughout. And we are also given this idea only about the Night Court because of all the things that happen in the Court of Night Mass. That is shown to be the entirety of the Night Court to us. But when Feyre is taken by Rhysand to the Night Court, it just is not the same place. It is very different from what it is shown to us in the first book. And we get a lot more character development of Rhysand as well as the Night Court itself as a whole. We also get to meet his found family, namely Mor, Cassian and Azriel for the first time there. And only then we also get to know about this other group of fairies called the Illyrians, who have wings and can fly basically. While Feyre is there for the first few days, she gets to know that Rhysand is able to hear and listen to each and every thought that she has, because he says as such to her, and he also gives her kind of a homework to do in the Spring Court for the next 3 weeks, that she must shield herself and not let anyone else just get into her head and listen to all the thoughts that she is thinking. So basically we had this idea that each and every person inside the Night Court is just a huge dick, like Rhysand was shown in the first book, despite him being like total sassy. But only after this book we get to see that all of them are just nice people and they are behaving in a very cordial way with Feyre, and she is not like imprisoned by them in any way for this 1 week. And all of them are also being very original to her. They are not trying to be like putting a persona of themselves in front of her. They are just being their own selves, especially Morgan, Cassian and Azriel. So after the first week inside the Night Court, Feyre returns back to the Spring Court, and he's getting to see all the powers that are vested in her because of the powers that were given to her by all the 7 High Lords there. And only when she is feeling something like deeply emotional does she see her power coming out of her. There are 2 instances which are shown to us inside the book very blatantly. The first one is when she gets super angry that she ends up blistering 2 handprints on the dining table when she is having food with the rest of the 2 men. And the second time is when she accidentally slips into the mind of Lucien and makes him tell something that she wants him to tell. Only during that time she is able to understand that she has this ability to wield power like the people from the Summer Court, that is from the place where Lucien is. At the same time, she has also gotten powers of Rhysand, because of which she is able to get into the minds of people and read their thoughts and kind of influence them to do the stuff that she wants to do. She does not do any of these things in a conscious way. They just happen out of deep emotions felt by her, like in terms of reflexes or reactions of her body. She is unaware of how powerful she is, even though she has like literally at least 7 huge powers that are individually present with each and every one of the High Lords of the 7 courts. After she gets knowledge of this, there is some attack that is being done in one part of the Spring Court, and instead of taking Feyre along with them, Tamlin and Lucien end up locking her inside the court or house itself, and they just go alone, despite Feyre like basically begging them to take her out. That's the time when Feyre snaps, and out of nowhere Morgan comes and she tries to take Feyre away from the Spring Court to the Night Court again, and Feyre is able to understand that she's not going to be able to do anything here except just marrying Tamlin and being his wife. So she understands that if she wants to do something with her life and make some impact, seeing all the things that are happening there inside the fairy world, she has to get out of the spring court. So she just takes Morgan's offer and Morgan just flies her away into the night court. I think that's basically the breaking point of Feyre in this book, and from there we just see this complete shift that's going to happen inside her based on all the things that are revealed to her little by little by both Lucian as well as the world as a whole. Only after the second visit or second time that Feyre goes into the night court, she's able to understand a lot more about Rhys's found family, namely Amren, Mor, Cassian, Raziel and all the other people out there, especially these poor people, and the fact that Rhysand has Amren as well as Mor, who are two other females after him as his successors inside the court itself, is something which tells something about Rhysand compared to Tamlin. The backstories of each and every one of these four characters and their identities is also very interesting to read. They are hugely painful, okay? They are like extremely painful, so I'm not going to discuss them in depth here. But I just loved how each and every one of them was their own person. I can see that they are like completely old and everything. But despite that, everything that they went through is not diminished in any way just because they are old. Now Mor has this ability to be the truth fairy. Okay, everything that she says is considered to be the truth. And the way in which she uses that power across different happenings inside the book as well as the series as a whole was really nice to see. Next we have Cassian and Raziel, who are like two of the mightiest warriors from the Illyrian clan, and how the Illyrians basically treat their women by like snapping their wings and just domesticating them as much as they can, and how Rhys as well as the other people inside this family are trying to change that dynamic. Especially Cassian has been through like shit, okay? He has suffered incessantly inside this world, and despite that he has this very good intention to use his power in the proper way by siding with the right people so that he can put that power into proper use, so that anything that happened to him and his mother from his past does not affect anyone else in the similar way in the future and now too. And he's also incredibly sassy, which just makes him so much fun to be around. Next we have Azriel, who's basically a person who lives inside shadows, okay? Everywhere he travels, there is the shadow that just envelops him, and that itself was something which was very enigmatic and attractive if you ask me. And he's also this kind of very brooding, silent character, right? He's not shown to be like eclectic in any way. He's not shown to be like, classy or anything. But there is some ability or something, that quality inside Raziel, which just makes him like stand out from all the other characters if you ask me. I'm not saying that I like any of these characters more or less than the others. I can say that all of the four friends of Rhysand are very equally liked by me. Of all these four people, if you ask me, the most mysterious for us is Amren. The only fact that we know about Amren is that she was also not a high fae before, and just like Feyre, she also ended up getting the body of a high fae because of something that happened. What she was before and how she got that body is not at all revealed to us in this book. And the fact that Rhysand is also half Illyrian from his father's side is also shown to us here only. The relationship between Rhysand's mother and her father, and how they were both mates, and how that affected a lot of the things that happened between them is also shown to us here. Basically, if you ask me, the found family that Rhysand has for himself, in which Feyre has become a part of now, just feels really cozy. Now, after Feyre starts understanding all these people, we get the huge reveal of the small city or town called Velaris, okay? And it's basically the small chunk of the Night Court that's actually been touched by starlight, because of which the city is super beautiful, okay? Each and everyone that is there is very happy, and it's basically the only secret that the Night Court has. No one else except the people who are living in Velaris as well as Rhys and his family know the existence of Velaris at all. It has been kept protected and away from the reach of Amarantha even when she took over the 7 courts as a whole. Since Rhys was continuously conspiring against her, he made sure that his family of these 4 people as well as the entire town or city of Velaris was kept safe away from her, and he was completely protecting it the whole time. Despite all the things that have been happening in the outside world for the past 50 years, Velaris has not been affected at all. We have had this image of Rhysand in our head that he is this huge tyrannical lord who tortures all the people who are in his night court for the entire time of the first book. But only because of all these revelations which we get little by little inside this book, we get to see what kind of person Rhysand is and how much caring he is towards his family as well as the people who are in his court as a whole. If you ask me, the best part inside Velaris is that Star Night Festival, if I'm not wrong, that takes place, and the time during which all the souls are crossing the city of Velaris little by little throughout that night. It is such a magical scene to read that entire festival taking place, and the fact that this is kept secret from the world, even from the other fairies itself, is something which just makes it even more special. During this time only, it is revealed to Feyre by Rhysand that just because Amarantha is dead doesn't mean that the mortal world as well as the world of the fairies is totally safe. he makes sure to inform her that the King of Hybern is trying to bring down the wall that separates the Fey lands from the mortal lands, and after that he's planning to take over the entirety of Prythian as well as the mortal world for himself. As a result of it, the thing that will happen is all the mortals will be killed and all the fairies of Prythian will be kind of made slaves by the King of Hybern. Only after getting to know this, Feyre understands that it's not a choice for her to just take over this power that she has and train to fight against the armies of Hybern, but she needs to do it because she doesn't just have a family she also has this huge family, but she also has her own family of her 2 sisters and father on the other side of the wall in the mortal world. To keep them safe as well as to keep her family here safe, she has to make the proper use of her powers, and from then on she starts training with Cassian, Azriel, Mort, Rhysand and all of the other people, and tries to make all the powers that she has gotten from all the 7 lords of Prythian to be put into proper use, because no one else but her has all of these powers put together in a single person. Now, to understand how the King of Hybern is planning to bring down the wall and take over Prythian as well as the mortal lands, they need to know some details of what kind of power he holds. So they go forward and meet this person called the Carver inside the prison. I think he's the Carver only. If I'm telling something wrong, please do let me know in the comments. Now, the entire chunk of the book that involves the Carver is kind of creepy to read. It is lush and rich, at the same time super creepy and scary for me to read at least. The Carver also looks like this small boy who seems kind of familiar to Feyre for some reason, and the Carver also keeps on switching their appearance based on the people that is talking to them. Since it is in the form of the boy here, Carver is said to be addressed as a him, and Feyre also keeps addressing him as a him only here. And after some bargaining that, Feyre will tell the Carver what happened to her after she died and before she came back to life. The Carver tells them the secret of what kind of power the King of Hybern holds. Now basically what is happening is, Feyre tells to the Carver that once she was dead, she was in the space of entire darkness where there was nothing existing. She did not have a body, she was just a soul. She had her consciousness intact, but there was this single thread or tether that was holding her to this mortal world or this fairy world where her body is right now. And when the power was vested in her by all the 7 lords of Prythian, that's when she was able to attach her soul with her body and be reborn as a High Fae. There is some understanding that clicks inside the head of the Carver, and because of Rhysand's persuasion also, the Carver ends up telling that secret to them. And it is basically that the King of Hybern has this cauldron which is responsible for the creation of the world as a whole, and using that cauldron and this huge book only, he is going to try and bring down the wall so that he can take over the entire world. And we also get to know that this book is separated into 2 halves, and just to separate the power that can be held by the mortal world as well as the fairies equally, one half of the book is given to the High Lord of the Dawn Court, if I'm not wrong. His name is Tarquin, and the other half is in the possession of the mortal queens. We spent a lot of time in the mortal world in the first book itself, but we did not get any mention of any mortal queens there. So this is another new concept that is added here at this point of the book. So the team is now going to try and get the 2 halves of the book. The first half from Tarquin, who's kind of an ally to them in order to fight against Hybern, and the other half from the mortal queens, because the mortal world is also under threat because of the King of Hybern and his plans to bring down the wall. So they end up getting the first half of the book relatively easily because it is with the Lord of the Dawn Court, that is Tarquin. After going and trying to betray him, Feyre understands that he's a nice person, so she does not want to betray him. But despite that, they have to because they want to save this world. They also get to know that it is contained in this small place on a bridge where the book hides because of the low tides and high tides there. And Amren as well as Feyre end up stealing that chunk of the book. Now Feyre is able to sense this book because she has this pigment of power that is given to her by the Lord of the Dawn Court to her. So because of that power that she has, she's able to sense the half of the book that is hidden somewhere. And doing all these things, they steal that one half of the book. And in order to get the second half of the book, they are going to go and meet the mortal queens. Now the meeting with the mortal queens does not go as intended. Okay, they are going to meet the mortal queens in Feyre's house with the help of Nesta as well as Elaine. Both of them are quite resisting in the beginning, but after understanding the impact and magnitude of what can happen to their world, they accept and bring the queens of the mortal lands to their home. And Rhys and her crew also meet with the mortal queens there. The mortal queens are not okay with giving their half of the book to Rhysand and his friends, despite knowing that the King of Hybern is going to try and bring their world down with them too. So Rhysand strikes a bargain and says that he's going to tell everything about himself to the mortal queens, and just in order to make them understand that he's not lying to them or altering their mind in any way because of the power that he has, he says that he'll bring this orb that is said to display only the truth, which is actually being housed in the city of Nightmares right now, which is also a part of the Spring Court. And after bringing that orb, they can see the entirety of his memories through that orb, and after that they can give the other half of the book to them. So this meeting adjourns, and after that Rhys and his crew along with Feyre go to the city of Nightmares, where the people think that Rhys is this very torturous tyrant who keeps on invading them all the whole. At the same time, he also speaks with Feyre, and Feyre accepts that she will be mistreated by him inside that boat. In the book, it is said that they go forward and steal the orb from the city of Nightmares by behaving in certain ways so that the people don't doubt them. But it's quite doubtful for me because Rhys is actually the High Lord of the Night Court and City of Nightmares is actually a part of the Night Court. So why should Rhys go and steal something that is actually existing in his own part of the realm of Prythian without anyone knowing about it? So if you who are watching this video has any explanation for this one which I did not understand, please do let me know down in the comments because I want to get some clarity on it. And after getting the orb, they meet the mortal queens for the second time. But this time around, not all the queens that came the first time have come. There are only 2 other queens who have come, and after seeing the entirety of Rhys's memories and especially Velaris, which has not been revealed to anyone except this small crew alone, they get to know everything about the Night Court and see that that's the only vulnerable part that Rhys is holding. Despite that, they say that they are not going to give the one half of the book with them, and after leaving, Rhys can understand that there is this older queen alone who has left them some kind of hint because all the other mortal queens are kind of conspiring in a way to bring down the Night Court as well as the Fairies realm as a whole and side with Hybern so that they can strike a bargain with the King of Hybern to save their own city. Now during this time when they brought that orb from the City of Nightmares for the second meeting with the queens, 2 times Rhys gets attacked. The first time he's attacked with ash arrows, but nothing happens that much to him because he kind of dodges the attacks. And the second time what happens is he's actually attacked by ash arrows, which are poisonous also. During this time only Lucien also ends up finding Feyre, but Feyre just decides to stay with Rhys because she knows that all the things that are happening here are right, and if she goes to Tamlin with Lucien, all these things will just go to naught. So Lucien is sent away, and after that only Rhys gets attacked by these poison ash darts. Feyre ends up killing the people who attacked Rhys, and just in order to save him, she summons the Suriel for the second time in this book. The first time she summoned the Suriel was in book 1, and the second time she's doing it right now just in order to get some answers from the Suriel to save Rhys from dying. The Suriel ends up telling Feyre that her blood can help heal Rhys because she has the ability to heal because of the power that was given to her by the High Lord of the Dawn Court. So she ends up slitting her wrist, giving a little bit of her blood to him, and because of that Rhys starts healing. And after telling that, the Suriel also drops another truth bomb on Feyre, saying that Rhys and Feyre are mates and Rhys has known this for a very long time. After knowing this, Feyre just goes and drops Rhys along with the rest of the crew, and Maud takes Feyre to this cabin which is very private to the people of the crew of Rhys alone, and Feyre just spends a few days alone in that cabin and she starts painting again because she sees some paint there, and as she is painting she is able to understand the bond that she has had with Rhys and gets to understand why they are both mates. It is not like Rhys only knew that both of them are mates. The other people in the crew also knew that they were both mates, but they did not say anything to Feyre. So once Rhys is healed, he comes and talks with Feyre and explains to her how he has known that she is her mate ever since he saw her for the first time in the Calanmai festival in the Spring Court from book 1. It is quite confusing for me because while Rhys sees Feyre for the first time in book 1, Feyre is still human, and it does not said like a human can be a fairy's mate anywhere before in the book, but this is left kind of unexplained to us and I don't understand that. Maybe he was also confused in the beginning, and only after Feyre got transformed into Highway in the ending of book 1 he got a concrete understanding of this. But he also acted in a way that he has to protect Feyre because she is his mate. At the same time, he also does not want to go forward and interfere with her life and her life choices. So he just leaves her with Tamlin, and only when he feels that bond with Feyre, saying that she does not want to marry Tamlin, he goes forward and abducts her to the Night Court. Now Feyre and Tamlin have come to terms with each other, and both of them have accepted each other too. Only after this what happens is there is an attack on Velaris, and only after safeguarding the city and bringing down the army that tried to bring down Velaris, they understand that the mortal queens are the ones who are responsible for the attack on Velaris because they teamed up with the King of Hybern and gave him the secret information about Velaris that no one else had, and because of this only the city of Velaris was attacked by the King of Hybern. They also end up getting the second half of the book that belonged to the mortal queens, and it is written in a language that only Amren can read, so she keeps on sitting down and investigating the book because no one else can read it. And they also get to know that once Amren solves the puzzle of the book, she can also be released from that high fae form, but the catch being that once she is released, she'll not have any memories of all the things that she has done for and with these people. Now when they go forward and try to destroy the cauldron along with that book only, it is revealed to us that it is not just the mortal queens who have teamed with the King of Hybern, but also Tamlin in order to get Feyre back. He is under this impression that Rhys has taken over Feyre and groomed her in such a way that she starts seeing Tamlin in a different way, but we all know that Feyre has understood understood Tamlin as well as Rhysand properly, and after getting to know that he's his mate, Feyre is able to understand that the thing that she had with Tamlin was true and real, but there was definitely a stopping point for it because of all the things that Tamlin kept on doing. Now when they try to take the cauldron, the entire team is just, frozen of their abilities by the King of Hybern, and he has also resurrected Jurian and kept him alive for these many years without the outside world knowing, which comes as a total shock for each and everyone out here. Because of all these people, Mor was one person who was very close to Jurian, who's the man that ended up torturing and killing Amarantha's sister. Now the reason why the queens have betrayed Rhysand and his crew is because the King of Hybern has said that the cauldron has the ability to give them the power of immortality by making them high fae. And in order to prove this, what happens is Feyre, Rhysand and the crew are killed of their abilities by the King of Hybern. Elaine and Nesta have also been abducted from their home and they are dropped into the cauldron, because of which they are forced into becoming high fae. During that time only, what happens is when Nesta is transformed into a high fae, there is this huge feeling which is very intense that is being felt by Cassian. I think Cassian and Nesta are going to be mates, and subsequently what also happens is during the same time that Elaine is made into a high fae, it is revealed to us that Lucien and Elaine are mates, but Elaine was actually engaged to this mortal lord in the mortal world, but she's been abducted from there and become high fae now forcefully. Lucien is not sure whether Elaine is okay with being his mate or not, and we are going to see that more in the next book. Tamlin also reveals to us that he's doing all this stuff by siding with the other team just in order to get Feyre back and save her from Rhysand. So he's basically under the impression that everything that Feyre has done so far has been under the influence of Rhysand only and not from her own heart. So Feyre leans into this liability that Tamlin has and acts in a way that she wants to be taken away by Tamlin away from Rhysand, and she asks the King of Hybern to break the bond between Feyre and Rhysand. Now the King of Hybern doesn't know that Feyre and Rhysand are mates, so he thinks that the bond she's trying to break is the deal that she made with Rhysand in the time during Under the Mountain, where she has to spend 1 week every month with him. And Feyre goes to Tamlin, and Tamlin takes Feyre as well as Lucien along with him to the Spring Court. During this same time, Cassian as well as Azriel are hugely hurt and kind of dismembered by the King of Hybern as well as Jurian, but somehow they escape the place along with Elaine and Nesta, and Rhysand is kind of keeping all of them safe together along with him. Now everyone in Rhys's gang have been thinking that Feyre has actually switched her mind to something and she has gone away with Tamlin, just betraying them. But what has actually happened is, just the night before all these things happened, Feyre as well as Rhysand went alone and got married to each other, or just concreted their mating bond to each other. So it basically means that both of them are mates for the rest of their life now. It is kind of like a marriage between both of them, and no matter what they do after this, they are going to be together for each other. And as a result of all this, Feyre has actually gone along with Tamlin in order to be an inside spy for Rhysand and bring down Tamlin and the Spring Court from within. At the same time, gain a lot of knowledge about their relationship with the King of Hybern so that she can help Rhys and the crew to succeed in this huge battle. It is also revealed to us that Feyre has actually become the High Lady of the Night Court, the same position which was denied to her by Tamlin just because there have been no High Ladies before her. So Feyre is going to bring down Tamlin and the rest of the Spring Court from within with all her scheming and plotting and all the power that she has within herself that are not revealed to anyone. And we are going to see all these things coming into fruition in the third book inside the series, which is A Court of Wings and Ruin. So yes guys, that's it for my spoiler-free review and spoiler-filled discussion of A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J Maas, which is the second book inside the series. I've loved this book thoroughly, more compared to the first book, and by the time I'm filming this video, I've also finished reading the next 2 books inside the series. The review and discussion videos for both of them will also be published in just a few more days, so do watch out for them. And I'll probably finish reading A Court of Silver Flames also in March itself, so let's just wait and see how it is going to go. If you did enjoy watching today's video and found it useful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. And if you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.